whatever the GSTR forms we have, based on his registration type, he is supposed to file the GSTR return with the government. Forward charge mechanism is nothing but supplier is a registered dealer and you as a purchaser, you will be giving the tax amount to the supplier and supplier will be remitting the tax to the government. This process is called forward charge mechanism. If we are unable to determine value due to difficulty in calculating the transaction value as per section 50. Hello everyone, I am Arun Kumar, lecturer in Department of Commerce and Management, Vidhyaashram First Grade College, the Temple of Excellence, MYSURU. So welcome to session number 2 on unit number 4, that is GST assessment. So dear students, in the earlier session we were discussing about what is tax invoice and what is the necessity of obtaining the tax invoice and what and all the contents will be there in the tax invoice. About this particular concept we discussed in the previous session. So in this session, dear students, we are going to continue the concepts with respect to GST assessment. So now we will be discussing about the meaning of GST returns. So what is this returns? Returns is nothing but filing your details with respect to collection of GST or payment of GST or GST paid or GST receivable. Whatever the activities you are going to do with respect to the GST authority or with respect to your sales and purchase. So you are supposed to give the details of those sales and purchase to the GST authority. So where you are going to give all the details to the GST authority on timely basis, that is called filing of GSTR returns. That means filing details with respect to what and all the activities you have done with respect to the GST purview. So here meaning of GST returns. GST return is a form that a taxpayer registered under the goods and service tax, that is under GST law, must file for every GSTIN that is registered. That means here every taxpayer, that means if you are a registered person under the GST purview and if you have the GSTIN, that is goods and service tax identification number, then every month or on quarterly basis or on yearly basis, every on periodical basis, you are supposed to submit those GSTR returns with the GST authority. GST return is a document that will contain all the details of your sales, purchase, tax collected on sales and tax paid on purchase. Once you file GST returns, you will need to pay the resulting tax liability, that is money that you owe the government. So here GSTR return or GST document, it will be the return document, it will be containing of about all your purchase and sales. So as I said, this document GSTR return will be containing all the sales and purchase details with respect to a business and what is the output tax paid and what is the input tax paid. That is the output tax paid on sales and what is the input tax paid on purchase of raw materials or inputs and what is the final GST payable to the government. That details will be mentioned in the GSTR returns. In short, the number and types of GST return that a business professional must file is based on the type of taxpayer registered. Yes. So here under GST we have different types of GSTR returns, different types of forms. So which form is supposed to filed by each individual business entity? It is based on what category he registered, on what basis, on occasional registered, on occasional business person or a regular business person, under what type of registration he registered. Based on that he is supposed to file the different types of GSTR returns, whether GSTR 1 or 2 or 3 or 3A, whatever the GSTR forms we have, based on his registration type he is supposed to file the GSTR return with the government. These types includes regular taxpayer, composition taxable person, e-commerce operator, TDS deductor, non-resident taxpayers, input service distributor and casual taxable person. Yes, here we have different types of persons who will be registering with different kind of businesses. So if he is a person who is doing e-commerce, for him GSTR returns are different. If a person is regular taxpayer to the government, then for him he is supposed to file the different form of GSTR returns. And if he is a composition taxable person, for him we have different forms. And if he is a TDS deductor, for him also we have different GSTR forms. So based upon their business, they are supposed to file different GSTR returns. So GSTR return is a type of document where it will be containing the details of sales and purchase and the details of the input tax paid on purchase and the output tax paid on sales, and what is the final GST you are supposed to pay to the government. That details the GSTR return form will be containing, and GSTR will have the different types of forms. Based upon the registration type, you are going to file the different types of GSTR returns. So this is with respect to what is the meaning of GSTR returns. Next, who should file GSTR return? Yes, obviously, first we should have to know every person need not to pay the GSTR returns. Okay, only certain people are supposed to pay. So in case you are not a registered person, okay, if you are not a registered person, then you need not to pay GST to the government. So here, who are all supposed to file GSTR return or eligible to file GSTR return? The first thing, all business owners and dealers who are registered under the GST system must file GSTR return according to the nature of their business or transaction. Yes, as I said, if you are registered with the GST authority, then it is mandatory that, so based on your business, based on the what type of transaction you are doing, you are supposed to file the GSTR return with the GSTR authority, that is GST returns authority. So if you are a business owner and if you are registered with the GST authority or GST purview, then you are supposed to file the GSTR return. That is the first thing. Second, regular businesses. Yes, any regular businesses who are conducting and who are registered with the GST authority, they also supposed to file GSTR return. Next, businesses registered under the composition scheme. Any business registered with the composition scheme, those people are also supposed to file GSTR returns with the GST authority. Next, other types of business owners and dealers and amendments, that is any amendments have taken place with respect to filing of GSTR returns, then based on that amendment, if you are liable to pay GSTR returns, then you are supposed to file the GSTR return with the GST authority. Next, auto drafted returns. That means some auto drafted returns will be generated based on what type of business you are doing. That GST returns are also supposed to be submitted by the business entity to the government. And tax notice. So if you get tax notice, if you get notice from the GST authority that you are supposed to file GSTR return, at that time also you are supposed to pay the GST or you are supposed to file the GSTR return with the GST authority. So these many people or these types of business entities are supposed to file the GSTR return with the GST authority. Next types of GSTRs, that is types of GSTR returns what we have. So GSTR 1 we have, GSTR 2A, GSTR 2B, GSTR 3B, GSTR 4, GSTR 5, GSTR 6, GSTR 7, GSTR 8, GSTR 9, GSTR 9A, GSTR 9B, GSTR 9C, GSTR 10 and GSTR 11. So these are the different types of GSTR forms what we have. So based on what type of return you are filing, you are supposed to file this particular forms. So what will happen here? Here, for example, if you are a manufacturer, if you are purchasing some raw materials or inputs, so for that what kind of form you are supposed to file, that is for inward supply, what kind of form you will be filing, and for outward supply, what kind of form you will be filing, for payment of GST, what kind of form you will be filing. So based on that type of transaction, you are supposed to file the different type of GSTR returns. So this many GSTR forms what we have under the GST purview. Moving further, issues in filing GSTR returns. Yes, we will be facing so many issues while we are filing the GSTR returns in the GSTR portal. So what are the the issues we will be facing? What are the problems we will be facing at the time of filing the return? The first thing is payment and disclosure of GST tax. Yes, here we will get confused while we are filing the GSTR return about the payment and disclosure of GST tax. That is, what is the payment and how to make the payment and how to know the GST amount, what is the amount is supposed to be payable. About this we will get confused and it is a problem while we are paying the tax. Next one, wrongly claiming all input tax credits. Yes, sometimes we will not be knowing what to claim, what not to claim with respect to ITC, that is input tax credits. At that time we will get confused and we may make some mistakes at the time of filing the returns with the GST authority. Next, delay while submitting your GST returns. Yes, sometimes it may get delayed. We will not be knowing the due date to file the return and it may get delayed. There we face some problems at the time of filing the returns. And not charging the right GST rate. Yes, sometimes you're supposed to charge 12%, you will be charging 18%, or you're supposed to charge 18%, you charged only 12%. So there also you'll be having some problem while you are filing the return. You might select the different slab rate while you are filing the GSTR return. Next, considering export sales in the column of daily sales. Yes, while you are entering about the sales, you might consider the export sales with respect to the regular sales also, where you will be entering all the intra and inter sales. There you are also going to enter the export sales also. That is not correct, right? There you will get confused and there you might face some problem. And making errors while uploading data invoice wise in GSTR 1. Yes, here also you are supposed to upload all the details based on the daily basis, right? Based on the daily basis or according to the date. Sometimes you are going to make some mistakes. So instead of entering today's data, you will be entering tomorrow's data, or yesterday's data, you will be entering today's data. There also, while you are entering the data about the invoice, there also you might get confused and the problem might be created. And delay in making payment of reverse charge mechanism. Yes, here also we will be facing some problem with respect to delay in payment of reverse charge mechanism. That is where particular supplier is not a registered dealer. Okay, supplier is not a registered dealer, but the purchaser is a registered dealer. If you are a purchaser, then you are only supposed to raise the invoice and you are supposed to pay the tax. You are not paying the tax amount with the supplier because supplier is not a registered dealer. If supplier is not a registered dealer, you yourself create the invoice and you yourself remit the tax to the government. This process is called reverse charge mechanism. What is forward charge? Forward charge mechanism is nothing but supplier is a registered dealer and you as a purchaser, you will be giving the tax amount to the supplier and supplier will be remitting the tax to the government. This process is called forward charge mechanism. Next, avoiding reconciliation of GSTR 3B and GSTR 1. Yes, at the time of reconciliating the GSTR 3B and GSTR 1, at that time also you might find some problems. Ignoring GSTR 2A before claiming ITC on GSTR 3B returns. Yes, at the time of filing the ITC, that is input tax credit, you might ignore this GSTR 2A form and separating zero rated and nil rated to supply the matching or vice versa. So yes, here we will not be knowing all the items which are zero rated and nil rated. Okay, at that time we may mix up both zero rated and nil rated products and there also the problem might be created. So these are all the issues what we are facing or where we might get confused while we are filing the GSTR returns with the GST authority. Next, moving further, the next is, what does assessment under GST mean? So what is this assessment? So assessment is nothing but assessing or revaluing or correcting all our accounts or day-to-day activities. So here assessment means determination of tax liability under the GST law. Yes, what we will do, we are going to scrutinize all the purchase and sales. We are going to enter all the details with respect to purchase and sales and we will be assessing what is the tax payable on the sales or on the purchase. That is called assessment. So we will be assessing about what is the tax payable by an individual person or an individual registered person. That is called assessment. So the following are the various kinds of assessments under GST. So assessment is nothing but determination of tax liability under GST law. That means you are going to determine, you are going to find out what is the tax payable under the GST law. What is the GST payable? That is called assessment. You will be assessing about all the purchases and sales happened in your business and on that purchase and sales, what is the tax payable? About this you are going to find out and you will be finding out the tax liability with respect to this purchase and sales. That is called GST assessment. So under GST assessments, we have different types. Okay, in that the first one is self-assessment, provisional assessment and scrutiny assessment. So now we will study one by one about these types of assessments. The first thing is self-assessment. So what is this self-assessment? So self-assessment is nothing but every registered taxable person shall themselves assess their taxes payable and furnish a return for each tax period. The GST law operates similar to the excise VAT and service tax laws and continues to promote self-assessment. So self-assessment is nothing but here the particular registered person, he himself assess that what is the tax payable by him to the GST authority. That is called self-assessment. He will not go to any auditor. Okay, he will not go to any GST authority. He himself assess, he himself calculate what is the GST payable on his total sales and purchase. That is called self-assessment. Okay. Next one, scrutiny assessment or scrutiny of returns. So what is the scrutiny of returns? So under scrutiny, the proper officer may scrutinize a return to verify its correctness if any discrepancies are observed. Then the officer may ask for an explanation. So here under scrutiny of returns, a particular GST officer will be appointed or he will be taken care of all the returns which are filed by the assessee or by the business entity, and that officer will be checking out, he will be scrutinizing all the details about the correctness of the details. So he'll check all the forms whether it is filled or submitted properly or not. If the forms are not submitted properly, then what this person will do, the GST officer, he will inform the business entity or the owner of the business to file it proper way, to file it in the proper way, and he will give the explanation to the particular business entity, and he might ask explanation from the particular business entity about the forms or the returns filed by a business entity. If the officer finds the explanation satisfactory, then the taxable person will be informed and no further action will be taken. So the officer, GST officer, will be asking for explanation about the GST return filed. So whatever the explanation given by the particular officer, okay, particular business entity to the officer, if the officer satisfied with that explanation and no further action will be taken and it will be considered, the GST return will be considered. In case the proper officer will take the action, okay, in case if the explanation is not satisfactory. If the explanation is satisfactory, the officer will not take any further action. He'll just accept the return. In case when explanation is not satisfactory, then what will do? The officer, the proper officer will take action if the taxable person does not give the satisfactory explanation within the 30 days or if he does not rectify the discrepancies within the reasonable time. That means here, if the explanation is not satisfactory, the particular officer can take action if the business entity or the taxable person won't give the explanation within the 30 days or if it does not rectify the discrepancies within the reasonable time. If you won't give the explanation or if you won't rectify the error within 30 days or within the given time, then the officer will be having all the rights to take action against that particular taxable person. If he is satisfied with the particular explanation given by the taxable person, then no action will be taken. The officer may take action like conduct audit of the taxpayer under section 65. See, if he won't give the explanation within the 30 days or within the given time frame, the officer can conduct an audit. Okay, the officer can conduct an audit of the taxpayer, whatever the taxpayer submitted the return. Again on the same return, he can conduct an audit under section 65 and he can start special audit procedure under section 66. Yes, the officer can also start a special audit procedure, and also inspect and search the places of business of the taxpayer. Yes, the officer, the GST officer will be having all the rights to inspect the business place of a taxpayer if you won't give the proper explanation or if you won't rectify the the doubts. Next, you can initiate demand and recovery provisions. Yes, you can initiate the demand and recovery provisions. That means you can recover the goods or the any kind of services from the taxpayer if you won't rectify the doubts. So in these cases, you can take the necessary actions as a GST officer. Next, the section 60, provisional assessment. So yes, what is this provisional assessment? So provisional assessment, an assessee can request the officer for provisional assessment if he cannot determine value or rate. Yes, sometimes assessee will be in confusion. Okay, what type of GST is applicable and what is the rate of GST is applicable and what is the value I am supposed to consider. He will be in a confusion. At that time, the assessee can request the officer. The assessee can request the officer for provisional assessment if he cannot determine the value or rate. That is, if he unable to determine value due to difficulty in calculating the transaction value as per section 15. So if you're facing any problem to calculate the transaction value as per section 15 of the GST Act, then you can request the tax officer or the GST officer to do provisional assessment. Next, understanding whether certain receipt should be included or not. That is, unable to determine the rate of tax due to difficulties. So here, based upon if he is not able to understand about what rate of GST is applicable, whether it's 5%, 12%, 18% or 28%. So classifying the goods based on the HSN number or services and identifying whether any notification is applicable or not. So here, if he is facing problem to identify the rate of GST is applicable, then based on the HSN code or the service, you can go and clarify with the tax officer and identifying whether any notification is applicable or not. So in these situations, you can go and claim. The officer can go and claim and he can rectify all the doubts what a particular taxpayer will be having, and the taxpayer will be having the right to go and request the tax officer to do the provisional assessment with respect to his transactions and tax payable. So this is what the provisional assessment means. So next thing is GST Council meetings. So what is this GST Council meetings? So GST Council meeting here will be conducted by the Union Finance Minister. Yes, the GST Council meeting will be conducted by the Union Finance Minister. The date and time and place, will be sent to all the members of the council. So here GST Council is a group of members. The chairperson will be the Central Finance Minister. So here the chairperson, Central Finance Minister, and there will be some other group of members who are all the Finance Minister of all the states. So that is a group of members. That group will be called as GST Council. And whenever the GST Council meeting will be conducted, the meeting will be conducted by the GST Council Chairman, that is the Union Finance Minister, and the date, place and time of the GST Council meeting will be conveyed by the GST Chairman to all the respected members of the Council. So members discuss about the amendments, rules, regulations and also about increase or decrease of GST rates on goods and services. So what they discuss in the GST Council meeting? The members, what they discuss in the GST Council meeting? So the members will be discussing about the amendments, rules and regulations of GST and increase of decrease of GST. That is with respect to the goods and services, whether to increase the rates from 12 to 18% or 18% to 28%, or to decrease it from 28 to 18 or 18 to 12 or 12 to 5. About this, the discussions will happen in GST Council and they'll take the necessary action based upon the present scenario or based upon the present economical activity happening in the country. And till date, there are 51 GST Council meetings were conducted. Yes, by the GST Council. So here, till date, there are 51 meetings were conducted by the GST Councils, and there were so many amendments were happened, and they also decreased and increased the rate of GST with respect to different goods and services. The first meeting was held on 22nd September 2016. Yes, so the first GST meeting was conducted on 22nd September 2016, and in 2023 the meeting was happened on 2nd August 2023. That is, the recent meeting was happened on 2nd August 2023 through video conference. So far 51 meetings were happened, and in that the first meeting happened on 22nd September 2016, and the recent meeting has happened on 2nd August 2023 through video conference. And here the council will come together for a meeting with the intention of discussing about the amendments, rules and regulations with respect to GST, and decrease and increase of GST rates with respect to goods and services. So this is the meaning of GST Council meetings and what they do in GST Council meetings, and about how many meetings are conducted by the GST Council board. So I hope all of you understood what we discussed in the today's session with respect to all the theoretical aspects with respect to GST Council, GST assessment, and what is GSTR returns, types of GSTR returns and all. So with this, I'm going to wind up this session. I'll come up with few more new topics with respect to this GST concept. Until then, thank you all. Have a nice day. Namaste.